So this is Repticart Mike, and I have a very special guest today. We're streaming live, by the way, Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Live. This is a live stream. So this is Wayne Hill, and Wayne Hill is the founder of the Daytona Breeders Expo 31 years ago, I believe.
That's correct, 1990.
1990. And we are here at his 31st show right now. So I wanted all you guys to at least meet Wayne, for those who haven't. Most of you have or know who he is. But we're at that show. And last night we raised some money for US Ark. And I had the pleasure of buying or bidding on a helmet that Wayne got in 1975, I believe it was made for you.
Yeah, about 75.
So I wanted Wayne to share the story with you guys. So we have this in the archives. So can you focus in on the helmet, please? There we go. And this is this was an auction. I don't want to tell everybody what I paid for it entirely too much, but it was for US Ark. And I'd like for Wayne to share the story. Tell us the story of the helmet, please.
Well, when I was working in Saudi Arabia from the mid 70s to 1980, and I had 300 men that worked at the shed oil fields for us, and probably 40 of them was from Indonesia. So when they went home, they decided to have a man named Tom Silver, who was an artist in Indonesia, take a hammer and a chisel and a punch and take an aluminum hard hat and decorate it for me, so I'd have a unique hard hat in Saudi Arabia. So that's where the hard hat came from. But when I got back to the States, they wouldn't let me wear it because they passed a new rule that said aluminum hard hats conducted electricity. So I had to wear a fiberglass hard hat. And so it's been sitting on my desk since the late 70s, and I decided to donate it to the US Ark auction here at the National Reptile Breeders Expo. And it, like some of the other items, brought in a lot of money. So we raised about $73,000 last night for US Ark and US Ark Florida to support our lobbyist groups and our legislative initiatives. And we're all real pleased with that.
Now that's a record, right?
That is a record. Last year we raised a record also, but it was like, I don't know, 58,000 or some such.
Yeah.
But
that's impressive. I mean, during this COVID time right now.
Absolutely.
To have that many people come out and support the cause.
Yeah, because we had a lot of vendors that couldn't come because their home states wouldn't allow them back without quarantine.
Right.
So we lost probably, we had 500 tables to start with sold.
Right.
And when this virus hit and the laws started being passed, we lost about 100 tables, about 40 vendors, and we still are having a record year.
Well, I did a live stream of the line that wrapped around the building. You guys can go back in the archives, but the line to this show, I started from the beginning door and I walked all the way around the convention center, and it just kept going. I finally said, I'm done. And I came back around. But that was like the longest line I've ever seen for any reptile show ever.
Well, the vendors here have all reported to me that they've had record sales. Mm-hmm. There's a pin-up demand. Right. All the major shows in the country up to this time have been canceled.
Right.
Not by the show promoters as a rule, but normally by the governor of the state that they're in. And so we're being very vigilant about dust masks, face masks, and we limited the number of people in the show at one time to 2,100 people. But when we got to 2,100 people, we had people going out with arms full of supplies and animals. So for every guy that went out, we put another one in. So we maintained that 2,100 for 7 hours, which meant that we had over 3,000 people come through the door. So we thought that was impressive, considering
Yeah.
the virus situation that we're trying to live in.
Yeah. There's definitely a huge pent up demand. People miss the shows or coming to shows. So now you've been doing these shows for 31 years.
That's correct.
Has there ever been a canceled Daytona show?
No, no.
Never.
I was advised by many people and some close friends
Right?
to cancel this one. They said if nobody shows up, your reputation will be ruined. The success of the show will be in question, and on and on and on. And so I kind of feel vindicated that we made the right
Right.
zig when they thought we should have zagged.
Now I thought there was a hurricane one time that
2004.
2004.
Yeah, they call it the Hurricane Expo,
Right.
and they'll probably call this one the Virus Expo.
So you actually did the Hurricane Expo.
We
You were
did
here.
the hurricane came from the Gulf
Right.
through up Highway 17 into Daytona, and Friday we set up the show, and Friday night the hurricane hit, and the next morning the Ocean Center had power, the Hilton had power, and the IHOP where I feed my crew breakfast had power. So we were fine, and the attendance was down.
Right.
But the people that came to the show all bought a lot of stuff because they wasn't going to dodge trees and power lines down and all of that sort of thing,
Right.
and not go home with something.
Yeah.
So the show for the vendors was pretty good,
Yes.
even though we was in the middle of a hurricane.
I thought it was canceled.
No.
So now there are probably people watching right now. I can't really tell, but if you guys have any questions for Wayne Hill, this would be a good exercise. Please submit any question. And then I want to show Wayne how this works. So on this side of the screen right here, we can see what people would type out.
Yeah,
And then we can respond directly to their question.
that is very cool.
Yeah. So maybe Justin, you type a question out. So we'll do that. So while we're waiting for some questions, I want to go back to our helmet here.
Okay.
And okay, so what I love here is see how it's got your name,
Yeah.
and then over here is a beautiful design of a dragon.
Yeah.
Now, I think you also told me. So what is FLA? What is that?
That's Florida. When we were in Saudi Arabia, everybody had their state on their hat because that was the first thing you went to identify.
Okay.
And I didn't have this hat on at the time, but I heard an accent
Right.
out in the middle of a desert of an old boy talking, and he was a water well driller, and he had a southern accent. So I asked him where he was from, and he said Florida, from a little town you never heard of. And being that I had lived in Florida, with exception for a few years in Africa and a few years in Saudi Arabia, Thailand, working,
Mhm.
Florida had been my home my entire life. So I said, "What's the name of the town?" He said, "Haines City." And I said, "Where in Haines City?" And he said, "My mama and daddy run Fletcher's Fish Camp behind the drive-in in Haines City." So I said, "Well, tell your mama when she looks across the lake, the first house she sees is my mother's house." So his mother and my mother were next door neighbors with a lake in between.
Right.
And here we meet in the deserts of Saudi Arabia
Wow.
and find out that we're actually neighbors.
So what Wayne hadn't told you is he worked for a company called Aramco, which is, I think, the world's biggest oil company now in the world. But it was the United States that actually helped set that whole thing up, I assume.
Well, the Seven Sisters
Right.
oil companies actually owned it, set it up, got it established. And then about 1974 or 5, the Saudi government slowly but surely bought out Aramco until it was a fully government-owned entity. And they're actually selling stocks in the stock market, at least in Saudi. I don't know if they're selling in this country.
You can't buy it here right now.
Is that right?
No,
Okay. Well, I
no.
know that they were
I tried.
I had some experiences over there that would make you think that you wanted to buy stock, and then I had some experiences that would make you wonder about it. We had 2 fires over there while I was there, the Ras Tanura fire and the Dammam fire, and the Abqaiq fire, and I was involved with that, extinguishing those fires and one thing and another. And you just wondered about how some of these people uh, got to any kind of a position, much less
Right.
the position that we're in. But you have to remember that we're talking over 40 years ago too.
So this
So
was
there's
in
a
the
lot of
70s.
changes.
This
Yeah,
is
late
sev-
70s.
And what was
yeah.
your position at
Well,
in Aramco?
when I
What did you
left-
do?
Actually, my employer was Fluor Construction out of
Fluor-
California,
Floor
and
Daniel now.
Aramco was the customer.
I got it.
And so we worked under Aramco supervision many times, but we were building natural gas liquefaction plants, refineries, schools, hospitals, and we were in a project material storehouse division, which meant everything that was ordered for these projects came to one location, and then we allocated them depending on
Okay.
what project needed them. And so I was the when I left there, I was the site manager for the Shedcombe site of the Shedcombe oil field.
For with Floor. Okay. So, but I want to finish up the story with the helmet. So, what you talked to me last night was you actually made for your employees. Was it a prayer hut or something like that? And they gave
Oh,
you
yeah,
this
yeah.
as a result of it.
Well, what happened was we set up a site out in the desert,
Yep.
and they would take a metal, what we called a flexi van. Some people call them a cargo, whatever. It was a metal box that they ship things on board of the ship with. And that's what we made an office out of. We'd run a cord out and put a generator as far out as we could get for the noise,
Right.
and fence in an area. And we would receive materials that came in for a project in our area, and then we would allocate it. So we poured a concrete slab out there, and nobody wanted to pour it because everybody felt that was work for the untouchables. So I got out there and screeded off the concrete and all, much to the embarrassment of my employees. And then we put a shed over it, and then we put a 55-gallon drum up on top with a hose and a little faucet so they could wash their hands and feet
Right.
before they prayed. And this was a big deal. And so because of this, the guys were so pleased with this that when they went back, they actually made me two of these helmets. They made
Right.
one for me and one for my father.
Hmm.
And so they sat on my shelf for about 75 years.
Wow.
And-
So I'm the first owner
Yeah.
after you.
Yes.
Wow.
That's right.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get Wayne to sign it, and we'll put it at Premium Cricket's headquarters, national headquarters, and it will stay there. I don't know how long, but I might put it up for auction for USARC 20 years from now. Who knows?
That would be nice. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'll do that. So we do have a question here from the audience, and question is, what has it been like to see the show evolve over the last 30 years?
It's been unbelievable. I
Mhm.
decided back about 1988. I got back from Saudi in 1980, and I spent the next 8 to 10 years just going to international herpetological symposiums, going to the SSAR, going to the Herp League meetings, going to CITES conferences, meeting people that were in the industry.
Mhm.
And it occurred to me that we did not have a trade show for the industry because the industry was just coming off the ground. It was fledgling. There was just two handfuls of people we thought that were breeding reptiles.
Give us a year. What's the time frame on
This was 88, 89.
Okay.
And so in 1990, they asked if I would host the IHS, the International Herp Symposium in Orlando. And when they found out that I was going to have a co-host with the first National Reptile Breeders Expo, where they would be live animals, then they jerked that invitation out and went to Dallas.
Mm.
So we had the first National Reptile Breeders Expo in Orlando at a little, I don't remember if it was the Howard Johnson's at the time or a Holiday Inn. It was just a little small place next door to the Twin Towers, which is across the street from Universal Studios. And this was the only place out of 15 hotels that I interviewed that would let us have the convention. There was a lot of things going on in Orlando at the time, and everything got misinterpreted. And finally, there was this jolly 50-year-old lady that said, "I think that's a marvelous idea." So she broke out a contract for me, and I
Yeah.
signed it.
Right.
And I don't know if it was a going away present for the boss because she was leaving, or whether she really did think it was a good idea. And when the boss saw a contract for what they thought was going to be a snake show,
True
they
story.
fired her. They fired her.
Really?
Yeah, she was
Wow.
gone anyway.
Wow.
So I never found out. And
Yeah.
they wanted to know how many people did I expect. So I told them I wanted to have 400 people
Wow.
because the largest IHS was in '89 and they had 300 people there. And they just were so proud of that turnout.
Right.
So I said, if I can have 400 people, I can advertise the largest reptile meeting in the world. And that's what I want.
Right.
So as it turns out, I send one of my shirts, the first shirt, to Willard Scott on the Today Show and tell him we're doing the first National Reptile Breeders Expo. Well, he just loved this because he knew that Brian Gumble and Katie Couric wasn't about to go for it. So he holds it up on national television a week before my show, and he says, this coming weekend is the National Reptile Breeders Expo in Orlando.
And everybody showed up.
Yeah. And Brian Gumble said, oh, Willard, you're making this up. And Willard said, no, I got the shirt right here. And Katie said, oh, well, I think I've got an appointment that weekend. I can't make it. And everybody's laughing and going on, giving me $1 million worth of advertisement.
Oh, yeah, could see
so
it.
Forbes magazine heard about it. So they sent a photographer over to take a picture of me and a D'Albert's python under the guise of unusual jobs and callings,
Right.
you know. And so they print this the 1st of August with Madonna on the cover and me on the inside, which I thought was a nice pair. And so with those two advertising, unexpectedly, we had 2,000 people show up.
Wow.
And so we sold out every hotel in the area.
Wow.
They had like one waitress in the restaurant, and at 8 o'clock, she stood up on her chair and told everybody where they could go, threw her apron down and quit. So the owner's wife had to come in and try to bust tables. It was just unbelievable. And we have one man here today that has a first-year expo shirt and a first-year badge on. I let him in free every year. He's
the only one, by the way.
Yeah, he said that he's made all 31 shows.
Wow.
And we're down to like 2 people we know of that's made that's been a vendor at every show. And there's not many of us left, you know. We're a dying breed. But we are thinking seriously about trying to do number 32 because we've been so successful with dealing with the hazards of the virus and overcoming this with some good logistics and cooperation among the different organizations that it's looking possible.
Yeah, I think I've been doing the show 6 years, 7 years now.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And I've seen tremendous change. Just, you see a lot of people come and go.
Oh, yeah.
Which is true for any industry. A lot of ideas are good, and a lot of ideas get tested out here at the show, I think.
Yeah.
To see whether they are going to stick. Like this whole idea of live streaming from shows and then being able to put up animals and sell them. Brand new idea. So we're testing it out here at your show now.
One of the things that proves this is I decided that one of the problems was that vendors would come and they would have problems. So every time I heard about one, I would try to figure out how can I solve this problem.
Right.
And one of them was getting their products from their trucks and their cars and their trailers into their show. So what I did was I sold advertising on garden carts, nursery carts, if you will. Right. And I sold the bottom of them for an advertisement for $100. And I said that this advertisement was as good as long as the cart lasted. Well, it's been 10 or 15 years, and we still have those advertisements that these guys paid $100 for. So it's been less than $10 a year for advertising to your peer group. And we bought about 30 carts, and we still have them. And only about 2 of the carts still have companies' names on them that are still in business with us today. And the other people have moved on to other things or quit selling T-shirts and started doing shows of their own or something. And so
a lot of innovation,
a lot of changes. But for every time somebody leaves, it seems like there's two people that step up and say,
Right.
I've been buying animals here for 20 years and now they're old enough I can start selling babies. So that's what they do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kids have come here, and these kids now are the vendors,
That's correct.
right? Because they got their first taste, they saw the animals, they fell in love with the whole idea, and now they're creating their own projects and doing their own things and building the industry. He was talking about 2,000 people on his first show, but right now for 2020, 2,000 is nothing as far as the total number of people that are going to come to this show here this weekend.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions? Justin, you got anything? You're good? So we're going to let you go back because he's got to run the show. But do you want to say anything in closing, Wayne?
No, I just appreciate this opportunity to say hello everybody out there.
Yeah.
And the people that couldn't make it, many of them couldn't make it for political reasons of the state, or some because of health reasons, or some just felt insecure about our dealing with the virus. But apparently we have done well, and we will find out. But I feel sure that we will have little or no response or reports of health issues due to this, because we've got masks on people on both sides of the table and distancing between them, and they've done a good job of limiting the number of people in. So I think we're dealing with it, and by next year we should have
hopefully
some progress with dealing with the virus, and it should be a bigger and better show.
Right. All right then.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. If it wasn't for people like this, we wouldn't have an industry to sell into. All right.